In this session, we'll give you a quick overview of what database entities are. We'll start by answering the question, what is an entity? Then, we will explore how entities have attributes, and learn what basic data types are available for those attributes. We'll talk a bit about the special ID attribute. Finally, we'll finish up by talking about the built-in entity actions. So, what is an entity? An entity is what allows us to persist and access information that is needed in our OutSystems applications. Each business concept or application concept should be mapped to an entity. With entities, we're able to persist and access data in our application. Each new record that you insert or create in the entity will be persisted as a row in the database table. Therefore, entities have defined sets of data. The data is organized in attributes, which is where the properties of business concepts are stored. Each entity also has a set of entity actions, which we will introduce later on. By default, entities are created with an ID attribute. This attribute may be modified if needed, and it uniquely identifies each record in the entity. It acts as the primary key of the database table, and it provides support to create relationships between entities. Entities are required to have at least one attribute, and they may have many more. Just like the ID, other attributes are mapped to columns in the database table. Each attribute needs to have a basic data type defined. Regarding the basic data types, several options exist in OutSystems. We have alphanumeric types like text, phone number, or email. Then we have numeric data types such as integer, long integer, decimal, and currency. We can also represent a date and time combined or independently. A logical Boolean data type. Or binary data type to store images, for instance. As well as references to other entities. For each one of these data types, OutSystems has a default value. This means that any entity attribute or variable will always have a value, which will be the default value if not specified otherwise. When defining the name of a new attribute or variable, OutSystems will try to infer the data type based on the chosen name. Quite a few patterns are detailed here. For instance, if we go ahead and set the name of a new attribute to personal email, the data type would automatically be set to email. Another example is if we set the name to created on, in which case the data type inferred will be datetime. These are a few examples, and as you move along you'll get more used to leveraging these accelerators to boost your development. Entities also come with a few handy entity actions. These correspond to the common CRUD operations to create, retrieve, update, and delete records from the entity. For instance, the Create Customer Entity action allows you to add a new customer record into the customer entity. All the entity actions are automatically created by OutSystems and cannot be modified. Also, these entity actions can be used inside the application logic to manipulate the entity data.